Hi, and welcome to Talk to Ruth. I have a special guest today, and her name is Amparo. The place that she is actually promoting is called the Department of Mental Health. And I would like to welcome her to today's show. Hi, Amparo.
Hi, Ruth. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. We're going to discuss about the mental health department, what issues we have, and what you promote in your department.
Okay. Yeah, I'm part of the Mental Health Promoters Program in the LA County Department of Mental Health. And what we do is we offer classes and so basically informational workshops to the community. We have 15 topics and we basically present anywhere that they are willing to host us, libraries, schools, churches, wherever they would like to host us. And we offer these presentations and they're educational and free to the public. And that's basically how we lessen the stigma of mental health by educating people about it.
So, where are you guys usually located, or where do you guys go promote your department?
Well, we're in all of LA County.
Okay.
I work for Service Area 3, which is like the San Gabriel Valley, like West Covina, all that area. But basically, anywhere in LA County, we have different, service areas that we can reach, and so we're available anywhere in LA County. It would just be someone else that you would contact if it's not Service Area 3.
Okay. What if there's a city that doesn't know anything about this type of help, and how can we reach this community if it's an unincorporated area and there's no service there? How do you guys go out there and do outreach and promote?
Yeah, that's part of the job of a mental health promoter to go out into areas that maybe do not have this information. And for example, I live in unincorporated City Terrace, which is not actually a city, but it's part of LA County.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of Service Area 4. And somebody from that team could go out into local churches, local schools, anywhere that might need this service, and we can reach out to that area.
So, we're talking about mental health and mental illness. Is there a difference?
Um, well, we try to focus on wellness and um illness is kind of the condition and looking at it maybe from a medical model where you're looking at what's wrong with someone. And we try to look at the holistic perspective and look at what the person is going through, not just the like the negative symptoms or the things that are affecting them, just their whole life, whole perspective, and how that's going to affect their wellness.
Why is social stigma so scary?
So many organizations are currently working to change the perception of mental illness, and people are still uncomfortable talking about mental health issues. There are people who have experienced mental health problems, especially in the workplace, but few receive treatment. This is because they think of the if their mental illness becomes known, those around them are going to treat them differently. So the um the stigma in like part of disclosing your mental health in the workplace should be that you get protected, so protected by the Americans Disabilities Act, things like that, if let's say you have to miss work due to your mental health condition. But the stigma makes you feel misunderstood by sometimes family, friends, and they may also feel extreme loneliness and isolation, and they may hide their condition and refuse treatment because they're conscious of other people's gaze. So, this separation from society and distance from relationships with people can make the symptoms worse. So, I think we should be more careful because these unconscious prejudices and misunderstandings can be passed on to next generations.
Okay, so when you're saying about mental illness, um, a lot of people don't want to even talk about it. They are maybe in isolation, like you said,
Hmm.
and it has to do a lot too with the pandemic that just hit.
Yeah.
So there could be trauma,
Hmm.
there could be a loss in a family member, or an illness,
Hmm.
a very chronic disease, such as cancer or any other chronic, or something in their physical happen to them that will cause them. to probably not want to talk to anybody.
Right.
So your program, uh, we have a number that they can reach out and talk to somebody anytime, right?
Yeah, so the access line is it has different options. So when you call, you can ask to speak to someone at that moment, or you can ask to get a referral so that you can reach a clinic. And there's even like a special option for veterans so that they can speak to someone related to those issues. So yes, definitely there's the help. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The phone number is 1-800-854-7771, and you can also text in Los Angeles 741 um 741 so 741 twice.
Okay, so what if we don't have access to any of these numbers and we just want to self medicate or maybe do holistic, stuff that we can take to calm us, our anxiety, depression, whatsoever, and we really don't have that outlet for us? What do you suggest how we can heal on ourselves, on our own,
Right.
since we can't have access to that at that very moment in time?
Well, it's with self-medication, it's kind of hard because a lot of times people are using drugs and alcohol, or sometimes what we call maladaptive coping mechanisms to deal with stress or to deal with anxiety. And what that's going to do is sometimes leading to the condition getting worse or leading to substance abuse. um, but as far as um, self helping the
Holistically.
holistically, I mean, this is when we kind of refer to self-care, right?
Mhm.
So things like taking a walk, things like talking to a friend, someone that you trust, um, basically doing things for ourselves, like doing something relaxing, walking our dog, things like that. So that's kind of like the basic self-care tips or
Mhm.
actions that we can take so that we can kind of help ourselves.
Are mentally and all people that are mentally ill dangerous and prone to any type of accidents
No,
with
generally.
addiction or anything? They probably they say, "Oh well, I'm mentally ill. I should take this type of medication. Maybe it's going to help me focus, and maybe it's going to make me, better."
Right.
So, are mentally ill people dangerous and prone to accidents?
Well, generally people that have mental illnesses do not have a higher predisposition to being dangerous. Um, People with mental illness think that they are scared. People think that people with mental illness are scary or dangerous, but there are people usually that are rather timid or shy, and we are not different. People with mental health conditions, we have different illnesses, and not all people with mental illness behave inappropriately. Patients who behave inappropriately um, sometimes are in more serious condition, and behavior may occur when someone's anxious or when the illness is quite severe.
Yes.
So people without mental illness health diagnosis can behave more inappropriately or aggressive more often. So it's not people with mental health having that higher likeliness of doing that. So if you have a mental health condition, it is best to treat it early, because if you don't treat it right away, it can become worse. And just because you're mentally ill doesn't mean you have to take medicine and be isolated. When you think of mental illness, you think of a place or prison, like if you think of an institution, for example.
Hmm.
But people with mental illness sometimes have been isolated for a long time.
Yeah.
Their ability to adapt to society can deteriorate and make it difficult for them to return to society. So treatment nowadays is more towards rehabilitation
Hmm.
and in opening communities so that it's not like they're separated from society.
So there's an advancement to all the program that we're talking about now. It's not like back then that you didn't know where to go.
Right.
So people that are actually taking how can they cannot diagnose themselves for mental illness. They just feel that something is just not right with them. So they need to seek this help. But there's a lot of young people nowadays that are going to the avenues of taking medication, self-medicating, thinking that it would help them. In the long run, it just actually makes them worse. So there is not there's two sides of mental illness. In my case, where the pandemic hit, uh, there's there's introverted people, but also mental illness can be also it could produce creativity.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that even if you're in the isolate in that time of isolation, you were able to create, to be creative with the space that you have and the time that you have there at home. So my children are tech kids, so they like to be indoors and create their tech.
Mm-hmm.
One is a animator and one is a game design
Oh.
game designer. So their avenues was to escape the pandemic, and they felt comfortable because they're used to being in that
Indoors.
environment.
Uh-huh.
So they're indoor kids, and nothing, really mattered to them. Yes, we would go outdoors and get, our vitamin D walks and just go places together so that we won't have that, you know, isolation process that we can't go out in the world and be social.
Mm-hmm.
So in my skills, I had to reach out to places, people, friends, because with my coping skills, it's very different from mental illness. In my coping skills is mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be healthy, and I want to be healthy for the sake of my kids,
Right.
because yeah, there's times where you do get you have this thought that you're not feeling well
Mm-hmm.
because you're stressed and overwhelmed by so much going around you.
Yeah.
So my coping mechanism, like you said, walking, exercise, eating nutritious food. A lot of times, sometimes processed food can affect your mental health,
Right. Right.
right? So anything that you ingest, you can definitely have a side effect.
Mm-hmm.
For my sake, I drink coffee.
Mm.
I love coffee. I'm a coffee drinker. And I don't have that side effect of being jittery.
Mm-hmm.
I have the side effect of being so calm. Do you see what the difference is? A person can have the jitters,
Right.
and it keeps me in a calm mental state.
Right.
So anybody can ask me, you want to go for a coffee? I'll be there. I will be there. But I have certain ways to cope.
Right.
How do you cope with any type of stressors or triggers in your life?
Well, I think the creativity that you mentioned is really wonderful, because I myself turned to art therapy, like creating
Wow.
like mainly I use like markers and bright colors.
Mhm.
Sometimes I use acrylic pastels,
Wow.
and I think that's a really good
Avenue?
avenue to just express your feelings, kind of put it on paper. It's a really healthy way to kind of, like you said, a lot of people with mental illness have this creativity aspect,
Yes,
and
yes.
it's really wonderful when you get to explore that and express yourself that way. So that's one of my coping mechanisms. I think, like you mentioned, during the pandemic, it was hard for all of us,
Mhm.
especially for me. I'm an extrovert.
Yeah.
So like my
Oh.
sister, it was like, la la la, this is fine, she's
Mhm.
an introvert, but I was having a hard time.
Yeah.
And that's when I got a dog. Like she kind of came into my life, and
Yes.
um she just forced me to go out. I had to walk her, and that was really healthy for me,
Oh
like
yeah.
taking care of someone
Definitely.
else. I mean, something else.
Yeah, actually having a pet
Yeah.
is your family,
Yeah.
and it actually is therapy
Yeah, for me it is. Yeah.
for a lot of people, and they don't
Hmm.
realize they can have that therapy animal. It could even be as much as a bird.
Right.
Even a bird can help that individual out. And like you said, your programs offer these avenues. Do you have art therapy, music therapy?
Well, we definitely have support groups. We have Spanish speaking support groups. I know that after they also offer, like, they have arts and crafts.
Hmm.
So that's a really creative way to kind of like, take time to do something creative. I remember one time I went and they were making hats, like knitting,
Oh, wow.
or when like they were making like little
Oh,
bracelets and little
yeah.
things like that. So there's definitely healthy ways to, take energy and put it into something creative, and just do something nice. I know, like, there was at the Pure Resource Center, there was a guy that came in and did guitar lessons, so
Oh,
things like that.
wow.
So there's quite a few things that the department
So
offers.
you just have to reach out for it and make sure that you call this hotline to get all these services. And are they free?
Yeah, pretty much all services are free. So the Department of Mental Health is, for the county, is geared towards people with Medi-Cal,
Yeah.
but a lot of these, like, support groups,
Mm-hmm.
these like art groups, they're free to the community, so
Okay.
anyone can come, even if you have your own insurance. Like, when it comes to clinical services, that's where your Medi-Cal would come in.
Oh, okay. So this is a really, really good program that you guys are offering. And what do you call your program?
The United Mental Health Promoters.
Promoters. Okay.
Uh-huh.
We'll see you all over the San Gabriel and surrounding areas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I have another one.
Hmm.
Prevention is an early intervention, and it leads to better outcome. So, what do you think the prevention can be?
um well, prevention is this type of service that we offer, which is basically information, right? So doing education and telling the community, like, these are the symptoms, these are the red flags, these are the warning signs, this is what you need to look out for, is part of prevention. So a lot of times with parents, they don't know what's wrong with their kid, and they may not be addressing the issue because they don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So then we tell them, okay, these are the signs, these are the red flags, this is when you need to go to your school counselor or request an IEP, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, just informing the community, this is what it is, this is what it looks like, that is prevention, and that leads people to go and get help, and then treat the signs early as opposed to waiting till it gets more serious.
Okay. I find that prevention in the IEP meetings that they have in the schools,
Mhm.
they always geared towards medicating children.
Mm.
I am not for that.
Mhm.
And I feel that maybe because of the growth of the child, there is a 100% possibility that they can outgrow most of what they're facing.
Mm.
So, do you suggest that we medicate our children for a certain type of mental illness?
Well, I'm not a doctor to recommend or not recommend medications or,
But we could
other avenues.
advise, right?
Right. So for me, I think depending on the condition, there are times that medication is a good option. There's times that there's not. Like you said, I think a lot of times people are going to, there's other tools, other things that are going to help
Exactly.
the child, or
Exactly.
so the individual educational plan, the IEP,
Mhm.
is usually geared towards creating a plan to help the child, so to have additional help or additional tools that that the school can give them to treat them. So usually a psychologist,
Therapists.
psychotherapist, actual MD is going to be the one that would be prescribing medications, and it's definitely up to the parent, up to their needs, to determine whether they do want to medicate their child or not.
Mhm.
And like you said, there's additional options, but like in my experience, we sometimes are so anti-medication
Yeah.
that there's times that is one of the
Solution.
solutions
Mhm.
or options that is going to help them the most. So I really can't say, or I'm anti-medication or
Yeah.
not. It's just really depends on the
It
situation.
depends on the child or situation. I mean, I could just say that maybe in the long run it does help because you are a specialist and you see the outcomes of a positive reaction when it comes to medication to some children.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's side effects that can cause them to react a certain way, and it's in a negative way. Why? Because they're probably using too much high doses of medication, right? So yeah, I'm I'm for it. I'm not for it. So I'm in between
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because, like you said, it depends on the individual. And if you have a child that's overacting or acting out in a public setting or a school setting
Mm-hmm.
or maybe at home, or and it's hard to control the child, yes, the doctor has a right to medicate the child to calm the child, how they're feeling inside, they're anxious or anxiety. Sometimes I feel, I don't know if anybody ever heard of this, but I hope someone out there knows about this diagnosis called pandas. Pandas is an illness.
Mm.
Nobody knows about it. You
Mm.
have to look it up. I don't have all the information, but I can I know firsthand because it happened. Um, it's an illness in the throat.
Oh, okay.
If you your child has an illness in the throat
Uh-huh.
and they don't know, the
Mm.
children will act out. So their
Oh.
reactions are mad and angry and frustrated.
Uh-huh.
You got to take your child
Mm-hmm.
and check their throat because
Mm.
they can have these stones in their throat
Oh.
and they cause a reaction. So the kids get almost like if they were mentally ill.
Mm.
They get erratic, they get angry and frustrated because they're internally sick
Mm.
and you don't really know. Okay, there was one incident where this lady sent her child off
Mm-hmm.
to a mental institution,
Oh, wow.
and she couldn't handle her own child because she was thinking, okay, well, this child, I can't handle this child. He's throwing things, she's hitting, biting, arguing, yelling, just causing a ruckus everywhere she went. So she sent her off to this place where it was a facility where they held her and they were giving her treatment, and apparently they found out years later that she was just only ill from her throat.
Mm. Yeah, and I
I
think
could
it's
not believe it.
right, and I think it's really important to identify physical conditions first.
Exactly.
So, for example, that will roll out like situations like this, which, like in your case, you're seeing all these behavior changes
Yeah.
and you're assuming that it's a behavioral health issue, and
Mhm.
perhaps it's actually a physical symptom,
Exactly.
manifestation of physical issues.
Yes.
So, yeah, we always recommend that anything that's not, that anything physical is rolled
Mhm.
out. Like, for example, I went to a training that was talking about depression, and sometimes it's lack of I forget which vitamin, but like basically sometimes
Oh.
it's your diet
Uh-huh.
that is causing you all these symptoms that are presenting sort of like depression, like
Yes.
low energy, you feeling kind of low, and it's actually you're lacking a certain vitamin, you're lacking some certain nutrients, and that's going to change it.
So
So
it's a vitamin deficiency.
pretty much.
Okay.
So, like there's a lot of these like you're saying, circumstances where it's a misdiagnosis of, and they miss something physical.
Yes, he
So,
did. Oh, I was just seeing this story online and I could not believe. I go, what is pandas?
uh-huh.
So I had to read about it because I had to educate myself, knowing that it could occur in all these little kids that are just growing, and maybe they can outgrow those outbursts.
Mm,
So like you said, you need to go check yourself. You can be lacking a vitamin.
right.
Okay, so this is really really this is a good touchy actually it touches everyone's heart.
Hmm.
You see these cases in the street, and you're figuring, okay, so how did they get there?
Hmm.
Why? Because a certain trauma in their life or situation happened. They can't they can't cope, and
Hmm.
there's no, anywhere. So I'm glad that you have an outreach so you can reach all these individuals that need help. Do you also reach the homeless? Do you have a team that goes out there?
Yeah, there's definitely the I think it's I'm forgetting the name right now, but there's definitely I think it's called the home team. I forget what the
Yeah.
initial stands for,
Mm-hmm.
but they're specific to doing support for people who are chronically homeless. Our program is prevention early intervention, so usually we're not focusing on that population, but the Department of Mental Health certainly does have specific teams to address people living in the streets.
Oh, that's wonderful. I didn't know. And they have a crisis hotline too.
Yeah, they have the
Okay.
crisis hotline. And I think something that we sometimes forget to mention is the exorbitant prices of housing.
Yeah.
So a lot of people do not have any mental illness end up homeless because of the high cost of living,
Yes.
and a lot of times end up developing anxiety, depression, things like that, that become more serious mental illness because they're living not knowing, whether they're going to get attacked, they're going to steal their things.
It's
What
environmental.
Right. So all the
Hmm.
situations are causing this high amount of stress that is going to cause, obviously, anybody that's living in the street. If you lived in the street for a week, how would you feel emotionally?
Exactly.
So, sometimes just pointing out there's things like high cost of living that are causing people to end up in this situation,
Hmm.
and then leading to mental illness, not necessarily the mental illness always leading them there.
Yeah. Okay. I have another question. What are the difficulties in working life for people with mental illness, the employees versus the employers?
There are um, a lot of help and a lot of tools to help someone that is in the workplace
Yeah.
and living with a mental health condition. However, I think a lot of employers are not aware of their responsibilities
Mhm.
as um, as people having employees that work with a mental health condition. So a lot of times, you have to advocate for yourself, and you have to, one, disclose that you have a mental health condition, to learn to ask for help from HR. There's program like Jan, it's called the Job Accommodation Network,
Oh, okay.
and it'll tell you these are accommodations for someone with this condition. These are common accommodations, and especially if you have a large employee like the
Hmm.
county, the city,
Hmm.
big corporations, they have to, if it's reasonable, they have to adhere to these accommodations. There's FMLA, so sometimes you can take intermittent leave, so you're, once a month you have a certain bout of depression or something like that, and
Hmm.
the employer has to hold your job. So a lot of this is educating yourself about your rights, and also helping your employer know what these
Health issues.
what these health issues that you're having, and how they can support you in doing that. And a lot of that, like I said, is self advocacy.
So they actually protect you once you disclose that, because a lot of people don't want to disclose their mental illness.
Right. And that's, sometimes people are afraid of using the word disability,
Mhm.
but that's where the Americans Disabilities Act comes in, where it has all these protections for you.
Okay.
And that's why sometimes we're afraid to use that word. We don't want the stigma associated with that word,
Yeah.
but it will offer protections, and it it protects you from retaliation, from getting fired, things like that,
Yeah.
especially if you're providing documentation from your doctor. And it doesn't have to be specific of, all these details and symptoms, but you um once you disclose, you become protected, and that's something
Great. A
important.
lot of people don't know about this.
Right.
So they're just actually hiding and bottling it inside of them internally. So uh, it's good to know that there is protection in this employee employer relations.
Yeah, and there's the union, there's the EAP, the Employee Assistance Program that most employers have, that you can go to some sessions with a therapist that is actually paid for by the employer, and you can seek out some help. So sometimes people, it's like it's not for continuous,
Yeah.
but it's for intermittent service where you may go to someone and they may help you identify issues. So there's a lot of programs that are out there that people don't know about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I live in an unincorporated area, and I see that there's not a lot of programs in that area. It's actually like a forgotten city. I tell it.
Uh-huh.
I've written to the mayor and our politicians to bring those resources in, and they don't. So, in order for our mental health issue around our city to become better, um, I'm proud that you guys are at least showing, um, maybe promoting it in parks, schools. Where else do you
Y-
promote?
Yeah, recreational centers, churches, anywhere that's willing to host us. And the people that we hire are leaders within our community. They're already usually in touch with what's going on. Like you said, like in areas perhaps where they're like noticing there's not enough support.
Mhm.
So that's kind of their job, to kind of find these areas where there's these pockets of people that are not being helped,
Mhm.
and outreaching to those communities. So yeah, like that's why we're out there. We're looking for places that
So
have
proud
that
of what
gap.
you
Yeah.
do. It's just amazing.
Thank you.
I'm honored to have you here as my guest. We also belong to a group called Toastmasters. That's where I met you,
Yes.
and you are, or previously were, the president of Toastmasters. So I actually was always looking up to you when it
Oh.
comes to you making your speeches and being out there. So this is another avenue to promote, which the Toastmasters did help you to be out in public and promote what you have a passion for.
Yeah, so Voces Latinas Toastmaster is a great place where you have a chance to come in, develop your public speaking skills, and kind of grow. I think the main thing is that we offer this safe space to present, to share what we're thinking, to communicate and learn to do that better. And we offer feedback. So when somebody does a speech, we give that person that opportunity to hear what they're doing well, what they could improve on. And yeah, we meet every other Thursday. The next meeting is going to be in person. We don't know
I
the
can't
location
wait.
yet. Yeah, so I love the in person meetings as well. We're doing virtual and in person every other meeting. Um, but yeah, definitely look us up. Voces Latinas Toastmaster in Instagram. Um, Voces Latinas Toastmaster, right? So yeah, that was a place where I learned to develop my public speaking skills and kind of be out there in the community, talking about anything that's important to you, anything that you want to grow and develop, not just personally, not just professionally, but personally as well.
Yeah, actually, when I joined the club, Toastmasters, it actually improved my social skills. I felt like I wasn't going to go anywhere of what how I felt before. I felt like I needed an outlet, like a safe place. And your Toastmasters really encouraged me to go forward. And that's why I'm here in Infinity Studios with Mr. Jeff. And I'm just so honored that I was able to take the next step, because I was at one point I was stagnant, I was dormant, and I felt like I couldn't go further anymore. And I had the opportunity here to voice and educate and bring people with education to the community so they can know what we're about. And people are learning,
Hmm.
and they're finding out there is certain products or services that can help them, and programs that can help them develop their skills or make them a better person,
Hmm.
make them a better version of themselves. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think anytime you kind of join this kind of groups, it becomes like a support group of helping you reach your goals, and helping you kind of mirror what what you're missing, and also kind of helping supporting you. So I think, like you said, like sometimes these groups open you up to meeting new people, to networking, and yeah, to grow professionally and personally.
Yes. Okay, I have another question. I'm gonna have some tips.
Okay.
So this is the final question. Tell us a little bit about the program you work and how you're gonna help the community from this day forth.
So, like I mentioned, our program, the United Mental Health Promoter Program, is designed to reduce stigma by educating the community on various mental health topics. The workshops that we present are free and open to the public. Like I mentioned, we connect in churches, schools, recreation centers, and anywhere that is willing to have us. Um, and as long as we have a group of 5 or more people, it could be like a group of friends that you have that you want to get this information. As long as we have 5 or more people, we'll present the information to you. And people that are struggling with mental health often don't seek professional help because of the fear of being stigmatized. And what this information does, it helps you empower you to access these services and to express yourself freely, so that you and your family can have a better quality of life. These workshops are available in English, Spanish, Mandarin, and Korean. And like I said, it education is so freeing. It's so powerful, and it really liberates people to know that sometimes what they're experiencing, a lot of people are experiencing, not just them. And
So
there's
you're
no
not alone.
yeah, not you're
You're
not
not
alone.
alone.
That's huge. And there's services out there, there's people that can support you, there's support groups. So that's really big.
I wrote actually was studying yesterday on self-help techniques.
Hmm.
So to in order to help with your mental health and or illness, there is some techniques that you can use. I just jotted a few down. So one of them is deep breathing. So
Hmm.
you deep breathe, okay? And then the opposite of any type of motion that you're thinking, maybe you're thinking of something bad. So you have to do something in the opposite emotion from what you're thinking or wanting to do or approach.
Hmm.
Your senses, you know, you can use your senses, all your senses in different positive avenues.
Yeah, there's a really good one for that. It's like you said, the 5 senses is like, uh, tell me something you can see, tell me something you can touch, tell me something you can feel, then tell me something you can hear. So, like at that moment, you are what they call grounding yourself. And all of a sudden, you may be ruminating on something negative or something like that. But at that moment, you're like, I'm here, I'm present. This is what I can feel. This is what I can hear. This is what I can see. So,
Wow.
that's a really good one that you mentioned, the five senses.
That is great. And another one, catching negative thoughts and replacing them with healthy ones.
Right, reframing, definitely using. Sometimes we're looking at it from a negative perspective, and we can see something and say, you know what, this is a learning opportunity. This is a challenge I'm going to overcome, and perhaps it's going to make me stronger. That's really important.
Also, setting and maintaining appropriate healthy boundaries with you and others.
Yeah, I really like that one because a lot of times you notice perhaps that you have a friend or you have somebody that is draining you all the time. You have a conversation with them, and maybe after that conversation, you're so tired. You're,
Yeah.
yeah, and then deciding, okay, do I have the energy to give to this person? Do
Yeah.
I want to spend that much time with them? Because who you surround yourself is, what kind of energy you're bringing into your life. So
Exactly.
setting those boundaries.
And what about relaxing with aromatherapy, music that soothes your soul,
Yeah,
walking outdoors like you do with
yeah.
your baby,
With my dog,
going
yeah.
to the beach, the park, or even walking around the neighborhood and or a warm shower.
Yeah, things like that are gonna, you know, get your senses going. A lot of things come up when you're isolating and you're inside a room and you're just in your head. So that ability to go outside, to experience the fresh air, to experience the sun, to, like you said, put your feet in the sand and the beach, explore nature. That's really going to kind of make you present, and sometimes help you just kind of look at all the beautiful things that are out there, and not focus so much on the negative.
I see a lot of your videos. You post wonderful videos of outdoor excursions that you have, and where you go, and a lot of people can't go to those places. And when you share them, you've been to really nature hiking trips, and I mean, so many things that I see that you post videos are nature, water, beach, and I get inspired by that. I really do.
I'm
I
glad to
thank you.
hear
I
that.
thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think, sometimes we're like, oh, that's so far away. But I think sometimes I had a friend that posted on a waterfall, and I was like, I want to go there. And
Mhm.
then, I looked it up and I was like, okay, let's go this weekend.
Hmm. So, de-stressing with some soothing activity, like you mentioned, coloring, painting, take up a hobby,
Mm-hmm.
something new,
Mm-hmm.
take classes
Mm-hmm.
in music or art.
Mm-hmm.
So, even colors that you wear or colors that you see can inspire you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, and a lot of people express themselves through fashion, right?
Mhm.
Like they like something, and then all of a sudden they wear that color, they express themselves.
Mhm.
That's a healthy way to, creatively put out positive energy.
Mhm.
And like sometimes, putting an outfit together or looking good makes you feel good.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely, those things are definitely tools that are going to help you feel more
Mhm.
um
Oh, and of
positive.
course, exercise and sleep.
Oh my
Sleep.
god, sleep.
You need
Yes,
that.
yes. There's the what we call the sleep hygiene, which
Okay.
is basically kind of going to bed at the same time, going having set hours of sleep, and avoiding things like looking at your screens, looking
Mhm.
at iPhones too
Anything
much
with
before.
light.
Yeah, with
Mhm.
light, so that you can kind of go into that sleep mode and really rest, because there's certain conditions that really get affected by sleep. So that's really gonna help your brain a lot, the rest.
So actually, there's a lot of techniques out there, and a couple of them also is do something that makes you happy, right?
Yeah, definitely. Anything that is gonna cheer you up, that's helping you. And as you mentioned that, I think of depression, which the main symptoms is not finding joy in something you used to do.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes people are going to reject this idea, but you have to kind of put yourself through the motion of doing things that you liked before sometimes.
Mhm.
And you're not going to get better if you do what you want to do, which is, when you're depressed, you want to stay home and isolate. So
Mhm.
you kind of have to get some sun,
Yeah.
do the things that seem like so hard at that moment, but you have to put yourself through the motions, because if you don't do those things, then it's just going to get worse.
So you also have to seek that help. So you must, or you should, or you want to seek a professional to can that can advise you, or maybe like you said, the groups. If you guys like
The support
group
groups.
support groups, maybe it's better, or you want one on one.
Yeah.
It's good to have.
Yeah, and I think the thing about finding either the diagnosis that you actually have, or understanding what is it that you're living with,
Mhm.
is like a really good start of sending you on the path
Okay.
to what are the things that are going to help you. And it's not always going to be easy, because there are times that you're going to get misdiagnosed,
Yeah.
that things like that are going to happen, but that's part of self advocacy and taking care of yourself, to continue searching for what is that's really going to help you. So um something about recovery, meaning you recovering and helping yourself for mental health is self-responsibility, and taking that ownership of, if I have this condition, I have to figure out what is going to help me get
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
And if going to a professional is going to do that, and helping them, that them helping me get on the path of what are the, the tools that I need to get better,
Mhm.
that's important.
Okay. And we're going to conclude this show, but we're going to have helpline numbers that they can reach anytime, day or night, 24/7. We have well, the number, the access number is a 1-800-854-7771. And that's a crisis hotline. So they can call that 24/7.
Yes. And now recently what's been released as well is the 988 number, which is an alternative to 911 when
Okay.
someone's having
What
a
is it?
crisis.
98?
988.
988. Okay.
And that's this new number that has been released. And instead of, sometimes, we hear of the police coming to a mental health crisis,
Yeah.
and that's not always the most conducive to recovery. That's sometimes maybe traumatizing for the person that is not actually about to commit a crime or do something dangerous, but
Yeah.
is in a state of where they need help. So that's a good alternative to 911, 988. And they can also kind of guide you to get more resources if you need. So sometimes that's a little easier to remember than 988 number.
Yeah, there was one incident that I called the police because of a situation that happened to an individual, and he was really either on drugs or it's called the PET team. Have you ever heard of PET
Yes,
team?
psychiatric emergency team.
So I asked the cops if they knew that number, and they said no, we don't have it. So I said, wait a minute, how could they not have it, and how could they not know about it? So me doing my research, got the phone number, called the police department back, gave them the phone number, and they actually went out there with their team. So this crisis team helped this individual because they're probably experiencing some type of drug overdose, or he's maybe he's hurting himself or others. So I seen that, and every time I see an individual needing help and they can't help themselves, I'm usually the one that would try to find and seek help for these individuals. So
yeah, and
I'm
thank you
like
for doing
advocate.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
an advocate.
Yeah, no, thank you for doing that, because like you said, sometimes they need medical help, sometimes they
Yeah.
need psychiatric help,
Yeah.
and perhaps the police is not going to be able to do that. They're there and they're thinking it's an emergency, but having this 988, having these other numbers is helpful in kind of streamlining the process of getting that psychiatric support.
Yeah, I'm gonna name have some numbers that I'm gonna say online that maybe that can help. There's a teen line. It's 1-800-852-8336, or you can text teen to 839-863. Another crisis text hotline is LA to 741. 741. That's the one that you gave me. And then there's a youth crisis hotline number. It's 1-800-843-5200. And then the psychiatric mental response team that we just mentioned, that anybody can call this number, 800-857-7771. This is and this is an important one. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. And then we have my last one that I jotted down was Runaway Youth. That's 800-448-4663. These numbers are so important. And all these pamphlets that you have given me, it shows how to help these individuals and educate on suicide prevention. So it's not only just one particular type of person, it could be anyone. It could be young, old, doesn't matter what age.
Yeah.
they still need to reach out.
Yeah, and the statistics
They're
tell
not
us
alone.
right that 1 in 4 people are going to experience some sort of mental health issue, and so that helps us remember how often this happens, how it can happen to anyone, and it's hopefully humbles us to be open to other people sharing this with us and us being willing to seek out the help.
Excellent. So, do you have anything more to add to? Well, we have this. She has this. It's actually a pamphlet that really gives you all the information, and we can get this through the health department, the Department of Mental Health.
Yeah, dmh.lacounty.gov. That's the LA County Mental Health website. And so all these numbers are going to be there. And yeah, I'd just like to close with remembering that you're not alone. If you ever feel isolated, you're hurting, you don't want to suffer in silence. You want to reach out, you want to get the help, and you want to help someone else do that if they're struggling. So be open to supporting other people with this too. Have that compassion and empathy.
Thank you so much, Amparo. I really appreciate having you on the show. We're concluding the show with Vanity Studios, and if you want to reach out to us anytime with this this recording, you can reach out with actually to Jeff. Is that okay? 310-906-8122. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.